it's Katie here from the Queen of Teen Fiction, and it's time to talk about the books that I have been reading throughout September. So the first book that I read is Super Awkward by Beth Garrett. This book follows a character called Bella Fisher, and as you can tell by the title, she is super awkward. She's quite an unlucky protagonist because everything that she does seems to go horribly wrong, and she ends up in some pretty awkward situations. The book starts with her going on holiday with her mum and her sister. It's not an exotic holiday, they just go to Wales. While she's there, she meets this boy named Zach, who is a couple of years older than her. She doesn't ever expect to see him again because obviously she's on holiday, so she ends up lying about her age to him, doesn't think about the repercussions because she doesn't think there will be any. And then of course, poor Bella gets a surprise when Zach ends up moving close to where she lives. This was a really cute book to read, and it reminded me a lot of the books that I used to read when I was younger. When I was about 14 and 15, I started reading the Confessions of Georgia Nicholson books, and I also started reading the Princess Diaries, and I lived for books like that had these awkwardly funny teen girl protagonists. So reading this really reminded me of the books that I used to love when I was that age. It's very current and there's a lot of hilarious references in here. Also, considering I thought that romance would be the main focus of this book going into it, it actually wasn't. The romance doesn't exactly go the way that I thought it would, which surprised me in the best possible way. So if you're looking for a fun and cute read, then this is perfect. The next book that I read this month is Three Dark Crowns by Kenda Blake. This is the proof copy of the book that I was sent by the wonderful people at My Kinda Book, but they were also kind enough to send me a copy of the finished book as well, which looks like this. Over here in the UK there are actually 3 covers, one for each queen. The other 2 look similar to these postcards that I was sent as well. That's the Elemental cover, that's the Naturalist cover, and this is the Poisoner cover. This was my favourite of the 3 covers, so I was super excited when I got this one in the post. So the reason why there are 3 covers is because it follows 3 sisters with different abilities. One is a Poisoner Queen, one is an Elemental Queen, and one is a Naturalist Queen. In this world, triplets are separated at the age of 6. They are taken away and trained to use the ability that they have, and then when they turn 16, they have to fight to the death. They get a certain amount of time to hunt down the other sisters and kill them. The last remaining sister gets the crown. When one of them wins, the people that have the same ability as the queen find themselves strengthened. And for generations, a Poisoner Queen has won the crown. So the poisoners in this world are very strong and are thriving. The current Poisoner Queen in training is Catherine. She's not as strong as her predecessors. So the family who are training her are trying to hide that fact and make her look stronger than she actually is. The Elemental Queen, Mirabella, is the strongest of the 3 sisters and is the strongest elemental that they have had in generations. Everyone assumes that she's going to win the crown because of it. And then the final sister, the Naturalist, is Arsinoe. So far her ability has failed to serve us at all. She is training with her best friend Jules, who happens to be one of the strongest naturalists that this island has seen in generations. She's trying her best to bring out Arsinoe's ability, but it's just not happening. Arsinoe was my favourite of the 3 sisters. I adored her attitude and I loved her friendship with Jules. It focuses on each of the 3 sisters, but it also has a big focus on Jules as well, so I ended up really loving her character. One of the things that I love best about this book is that it's very female focused. The women in this world are the ones that hold the power, and there are male characters in the story obviously, but the females definitely play a much bigger role. This book gave me the mother of all plot twists halfway through. There's an incident with Mirabella that just utterly shocked me and I wasn't expecting it, and it twisted my opinions a little bit as well. I think after that point there's a lot more tension in the book, and I will say that the last quarter of it or so is majorly exciting. I did not want to put it down for the last few chapters. Also, there is an epic plot twist at the end that I absolutely adored, and I cannot wait to read the next book and see what happens. It's a great start to a series that I'm excited about. So the third book that I read in September is Cell 7 by Kerry Drury. I read this book with my fellow members of the book club. This was our chosen read for the month, sent by the lovely people at Hotkey Books. Cell 7 is about a sort of twisted future of Britain in which the public decide whether a person is guilty or innocent of their crime. If a person commits a crime, then they are put in 7 different cells over 7 days, and they are followed by a reality show called Death is Justice. This show exists to supposedly show you all sides of the story so that the public can then make up their mind as to whether this person is guilty or not. They are then able to vote, and at the end of the 7 days, if a person is seen as guilty, they will be executed live on television. So it's a pretty grim and twisted idea for a story. It's also very intriguing as well. The book follows a character named Martha. She was caught on CCTV admitting to shooting a very famous celebrity. This man is Jackson Page, and he has done lots of charity work and is loved by the public. He is found dead at her feet. She admits to the shooting and gets put in the first cell, and we follow her story over that week that she is in the different cells. Obviously it's not all as simple as it seems, so there are lots of twists and turns in the story. It doesn't just follow Martha either, it also follows her counsellor and various other people that she's involved with. It also follows the show as well, so whenever there's an episode of Death is Justice, it's written out like a script. So it was a very different and interesting way to tell the story. I had a lot of mixed feelings about this book because I really enjoyed the concept of it and I thought that it was a really interesting idea, but I didn't really connect with Martha as much as I wanted to, and at times I did find it a little similar to other dystopian books that I've read. The thing is, I've read so much dystopia by now that a lot of it just feels similar. I think maybe if I'd have taken a break from dystopia and hadn't read one in a long time, I probably would have enjoyed this more. But because I have read a lot of dystopia in the past couple of years, everything just feels like it's being a bit repetitive. And the other problem that I had is that I found it quite predictable. All of the major plot twists that happen in the book I was able to spot pretty early on, so I knew what was going to happen. I don't know whether that was intentional or not. I don't think it was, because it's supposed to be a big shocking reveal. It just didn't feel shocking to me because I already knew. I actually preferred following the story from the perspective of Eve, who is Martha's counsellor. With this being a YA book, I feel like I should have connected with the teenage protagonist more than the adult counsellor, but that wasn't the case. Martha also has a love interest in the book, and I felt like their romance lacked some spark for me. It was kind of the same sort of romance that I'd read quite a lot of times before, a forbidden love type story where they know their days are limited. What I did love about this book was the twisted justice system and how people could let something like this happen. It raised some very valid questions about our society that we live in today and whether we could let this happen in reality. The book makes a point of saying that only people with enough money to vote can actually vote. So people who are disadvantaged and don't have enough money to live won't be able to spend their money doing a phone vote to decide whether somebody's guilty or not. So considering it's supposed to be putting justice in the hands of the people, it's doing the exact opposite of that. It's actually taking the justice away. So I liked the political side of it. There was a lot of manipulation within the book as well that I enjoyed. I just had some issues with Martha herself. So yeah, it was a pretty mixed bag of thoughts on this book. If you love all things dystopia, then you will probably adore this book. I just feel like I'm getting a little bit tired of dystopia at the moment, so I do need to take a step away from it. But I think there will be plenty of people that would adore this book. So the final book that I read this month, or I should say books technically because it's a series, and it is Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Riordan. As you can see here, I have read the first 4 books. This series has been bugging me for a long time because I started it quite a few years ago and then for some reason just never continued with the series. So I've been meaning to go back to it for so long now, and I kept telling myself that I would, but then I could never find the time to go back to it. This summer I became determined to actually start reading it again, so I've ended up flying through 4 books this month. I'm just gonna hold the first one because I can't be bothered holding all of them. I am so mad at myself for not reading this series sooner, and I knew that I would be mad at myself. It's just so good. I've been reading so many books in third person lately that I was kind of worried about going back to a first person story because I didn't know if I'd enjoy it as much because I'm so used to third person now, but I really adore Percy's narration of this series. He is so sassy. I love every word that comes out of his mouth. The thing is, going into this series, because it's been out for so long, I kind of actually knew some of the plot points already before going into it, because I have Tumblr. And I follow lots of bookish blogs on Tumblr, so there was no way that I could avoid certain spoilers. But even knowing some of the things that happen, it didn't take anything away from my enjoyment of the story, which was great. I also got to meet characters that I've been anticipating for a long time, such as Nico. Obviously, Nico is such a fan favourite, and I've heard so much about him on Tumblr, so I was very excited to finally meet him properly. So now I only have one book left to go in this series, and then I do plan to start on the Heroes of Olympus series as well. I'm so happy that I finally read them. Also, because I've finished Sea of Monsters, I decided to watch the film for the first time. Oh boy. That's a bad film adaptation of a book. It's really, yeah, it's terrible. I have seen some bad book to film adaptations before. I'm looking at you, City of Bones, but Sea of Monsters just went off and did its own thing. I feel like it should have said in the credits, based on original characters by Rick, instead of based on the book. But I won't go into a rant about the film because no one needs to hear that. Let's just forget that it ever happened. So please do let me know what you've been reading throughout September. Also, what do you plan to read in October? Let me know all the bookish things in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye!